What's up, everybody? I'm Finn Mckenty. This is my second channel where I talk about business and marketing, personal development, stuff like that. I originally said that I wasn't going to talk about music on this channel, but it always gets more views when I do, so I think I will talk about music, but as a way of communicating larger concepts about the things I just mentioned. And the article I wanted to talk about today was something that a few people have sent me. Deftones' Stephen Carpenter believes Earth is flat and vaccines don't work. But before I get into it, I wanted to mention the newsletter that I started doing a couple months ago. I send out an email every week with links to any videos I put out on this channel, on my main channel, the podcast, any interviews or other press appearances that I might have done. There's also links to what me and Deanna are reading and watching and listening to. So if that sounds like something you would like to get in your inbox every week, then you can sign up at the link in the description. And with that out of the way, let's get into it. This is from Loudwire. Deftones guitarist Stephen Carpenter recently visited the Tinfoil Hat with Sam Tripoli podcast. Sam Tripoli is one of these like Joe Rogan buddy comedian type LA scumbag weirdos that he always brings on the show. So that kind of tells you where he's coming from. Sharing some of his conspiracy theories and expressing his belief in several controversial ideas. Among the things learned during the chat were that Carpenter adheres to a flat earth view, and he also questions the effectiveness of vaccines. He explained, as transcribed by the PRP, if you think you live on a spinning flying space ball, you're in a cult. And he keeps going. I'm not going to read you all of it, but you get the idea. The guy's a flat earther.
I mean, I literally went and woke my wife up and told her that the earth was flat.
And on the anti-vaxxer front, Carpenter also shared his views on the current COVID-19 pandemic and the push for vaccines. He explained, there's never been one single vaccine that's ever worked, ever. We never eradicated polio. And he goes on and on and on. Obviously, the guy is totally delusional. And it would be easy for me to sit here and just kind of dunk on him and laugh at him for believing this stuff that is obviously not true. But that's not really what I'm interested in. I don't know what's wrong with the guy, but obviously he is not well. And if it seems like I'm not particularly like amused or surprised or really fazed by this, it's because I have known for a long time that the music industry is full of dysfunctional people. And for every example of that you see in the media, there's 10 or 100 more that you never hear about. Unfortunately, I think a reality that the best art is made from pain. The people that really connect with a whole like swath of people and become these like, I don't know if figureheads is the right word, but people like Lil Peep or Kurt Cobain or Gerard Way. I think the reason that those people connected with their audience in the way that they did is because they were able to share their pain in a way that the audience related to. And that's great. Like, I love that they can put out art that helps other people deal with this, but it does kind of make me think of like, does that kind of trap the artist in their dysfunction? If that's what we're looking to them for, is like mirror my pain and my dysfunction, aren't we kind of in a way encouraging them to stay there? And I don't think anybody's doing that deliberately, but that's sort of implicitly what we're doing, right? Also, there's a whole bunch of people that depend on these artists to kind of be who they are. So nobody is going to tell Stephen Carpenter like, hey man, I think maybe you should like stay off the podcast, maybe consider going to like an inpatient treatment facility or something because you seem like you are not in a good place. They're not going to do that because that means he's not going to be putting out music, not going to be selling merch, not going to be going on tour. These people don't get paid unless the artist is out there generating money. So they're sort of incentivized, again, to keep the artist in that place because that's what makes everybody money, even if it's not necessarily in that artist's best interest. Lil Peep was a great example of this. Like, if you watch that documentary, it's obvious that the kid is out of fucking control, that he's gonna die, but nobody says anything, or I guess a couple people did, but by and large, there were a lot of people in his life that didn't say anything because their livelihood depended on him being who he is. And part of who he was being a fucked up, depressed drug addict. And I think it's true that for the most part, people's art suffers when they feel better. For example, look at like Mac Miller's album when he came back and got sober. It sucks. Like, he just wrote a bunch of songs about getting sober. And the unfortunate reality is that that stuff doesn't make very good music. And if you look on Netflix, there's all these documentaries about like drugs and murder and divorce and drama, all this stuff. Nobody makes a mini series about like 5 marriages that are going really well. For whatever reason, we as human beings just don't find that entertaining. I think it goes goes back to the concept in psychology of negativity bias, that we as human beings are biologically programmed to remember things that are negative. And that makes sense from an evolutionary perspective, right? Because we have to remember what the poisonous berries look like, or we have to remember where the saber-toothed tiger lives, because those things might kill us. But remembering how good the other berries tasted, or remembering how pretty the sunset was yesterday, well, that's not really important information from an evolutionary perspective. So that does make sense, but we don't live in that world anymore. So there's all these parts of human behavior and psychology that are like maladaptive for the world that we live in now, which is only really a couple hundred years old. So it makes sense that essentially we have an algorithm that was optimized for, I don't know how long humans have been around, 100,000 years or whatever, that was optimized for that. And now we're deploying that algorithm in a completely different arena, and it doesn't work that well anymore. Our brains are wired to pay attention to negativity. And so I think that's why we connect with art that comes from a place like that. And I think that's why we elevate people who express those kind of emotions into the spotlight and keep them there. And I think unconsciously incentivize them to stay there. So I think from a fan perspective, that's something to think about. You know, whenever you're communicating with them in comments or just by clicking on stuff, maybe take a minute to ask yourself, what kind of behavior am I rewarding? I talked about this on my podcast with Lil Lotus, actually. He was talking about how a couple years ago when he was like doing a ton of drugs, like going on Instagram and like doing coke on his IG live and stuff, and everyone was like patting him on the back and telling him how awesome it was. Now he's not doing that stuff anymore. And he was like, you know, I did kind of notice my engagement go down a little bit. And that sucks. We shouldn't force people or make people feel like they're forced to choose between being happy, healthy humans and being successful entertainers. And I think as fans, we should ask ourselves what role we play in that. And for anybody that wants to have a career in music, well, you got to know this is what you're signing up for. I'm not saying you're going to find flat earthers every day, but, you know, go through the headlines of whatever, you know, Loudwire, whatever gossip site you want. There is no shortage of examples of people who are super dysfunctional. And for every one of those examples you see in a headline, there's 100 more that you didn't see. So understand you are signing up for that. Which, A, if you are not a dysfunctional person or not as dysfunctional, you may find that annoying or exhausting like I do. And B, you got to be careful because it could rub off on you. You know, one of the most important things for people who deal with addiction or mental health is being surrounded by the right people, because as I've talked about, that old saying about that you are the average of the 5 people that you hang out with is 100% true. If you hang out with a bunch of drug addicts, guess what? It's pretty likely that you're going to start doing drugs or you're going to do more drugs. Or on the other hand, if you hang out with a bunch of rich people who are always thinking about making money, then you are probably going to find your way into opportunities where you make more money. And I'm not saying one of those things is good or bad or whatever, it's just the way the world works. So if you are somebody that has these issues, I would say you should think twice about working in music, because it's not a healthy place. And yes, this is unique to music. You know, if you go work with Procter & Gamble or Microsoft or something, you don't, like, this shit does not happen. You're not going to go into a meeting and find a flat earther or an anti-vaxxer or somebody who just no-shows the meeting that day because they're not feeling it or they woke up hungover. Those people exist, yes, but they're like 1 in 1,000 and they usually get fired because that kind of behavior just doesn't work in a real business. And again, I'm not judging them or putting them down. I'm saying that the music industry tolerates this kind of behavior because you don't have a choice. Like, if you want to work with, I'll say Jonny Craig, for example, you know who he is, you know what kind of baggage he brings to the table, and you just got to sign up for that. Like, you can't work with Jonny Craig and expect him to be Ned Flanders, right? That's not who he is.
As far as it goes, you have no idea what I'm all about.
And I think when you look at the struggles of the music industry from like a macro perspective, the fact that it's full of dysfunctional people like this is part of why it's not more successful than it is. It's hard to excel at business. It's hard to excel in business when the people in that business are just like struggling to get by on a day-to-day basis with mental health and addiction, which unfortunately a lot of people in music are. So I guess just to wrap all this up, you know, it's sad to see that Stephen Carpenter is like this. Like, I'm not going to try to diagnose him here because obviously I'm not a doctor and clearly the guy is not well. And I think that's sad, but this is just the tip of the iceberg. You know, this is the nature of the beast in the music industry. I would say, especially in rock, it attracts a lot of people like this. And I don't really know what to say about it. I mean, is that something that can be changed? As a fan, I think you should ask yourself, like, what role do I play in this? And am I enabling people? And for anybody who wants to work in music, I would say, give it some thought because this is the kind of stuff they're going to deal with. Let me know what you think in the comments about this and the general presence of addiction and mental illness illness and dysfunction in the music industry. And if you haven't, I would love it if you'd sign up for the Punk Rock NBA newsletter. There's a link to that in the description. And with that, I will sign off for now, but I will see you next time.